Hello, hello. I am here 5 years out to the day from when I fractured my spine. And I felt it fitting to do a 5-year update. Like, I haven't even thought about it much in a few years now. I mean, there's little things now and then where it's like, obviously, that's a part of my history, pretty big part of my recent history. But in general, it's nothing I really focus on. But then every year on the anniversary of it, I remember. And this year I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already been 5 years. So I decided to actually go back through and watch the old videos that I made 5 years ago in the recovery process. And I must admit that as much as the process of fracturing my spine humbled me, going back to see those videos 5 years later humbled me all over again, and just like wanting to go back to my past self and be like, it's gonna be okay. So I feel like in a weird way, this video, absence of the space-time continuum, this video is a way of me kind of sending energy back to her and being like, yeah, 5 years later, it's not only okay, life is great. I mean, I'm happy to report that 5 years out, I have had no re-injuries whatsoever to my spine, and I've definitely put it to the test within the last few years because I'm a pretty active person. Like, I have been, let's see, like yoga, soccer, you guys already probably knew about that from the video series, various forms of dancing, like lots of dancing, lots of stretching, lots of movement. I've been on motorcycles again without issues. Don't tell my mom. That's like one of her biggest pet peeves is no motorcycles ever, but I've been on motorcycles again. Not like I don't have one. Like I said, she'd never allow that. But anyways, and then let's see. Oh, inner tubing. I went to the lake with my family again this past summer and went inner tubing for the first time since the injury. And I don't know if you guys have ever been inner tubing, but that is some choppy water. You're getting bounced around all the time. I came off of the inner tube with my arms shaking and bloody elbows and a smile on my face, but my back was totally fine. So if I can do all those things, knock on wood, without any re-injuries or re-aggravation or any issues, then holly freaking Luya. I am just so unbelievably grateful that I'm able to have this recovery story. Because I can admit, like, all due respect to Western medicine, and this part will come with a disclaimer, that, everybody's different in how they heal, how they, their path for healing and what works best for their mind, body, and spirit. But me personally, Western medicine is a very last resort. And something I didn't explain in these videos is how it happened. I mean, I'll be honest, I was in kind of an odd state when I was making these videos back in the day. It even reminds me of, the expression like, oh, he or she has no spine. It's almost like the universe, like in a very feeling sort of way, took like that spine, that courage out from under me for a while. And going back and watching the old videos, like, that was pretty evident. And 5 years later, I finally feel like I not only have my spine again, but it really is stronger than ever. Like, someone told me a quote when I was going through this process that we're strongest in our broken places. And I was like, oh dear, that's so sweet. But honestly, it's true. Like, I feel like I not only have my spine back, but it's stronger than it's ever been. And I'm just super grateful for that, but still aware of the lessons I learned, the humility I learned in the process of healing, and, even just an ounce of what others might go through in their adversity when it comes to healing from something really rough. But anyways, back to the Western medicine thing. I didn't mention in the videos that when I jumped into that gorgeous pool, it's called the Venus pool in Maui, I jumped into it and I, fractured my spine. I thought I maybe blew a disc. I hurt pretty bad, obviously. Had no idea I fractured it, to the point where I was determined not to get airlifted out of the pool I jumped into because I was in a state I wasn't familiar with. Like, I wanted to go home if I was going to go to the hospital or anything. And I didn't even think I needed to go to the hospital at that point. I was in a lot of pain, but I was like, I don't want to have to go see a doctor if I don't have to. Kind of stubborn like that. To the point where I actually rock climbed, because that was the easiest way out. I actually rock climbed out of the pool that I jumped into, which, by the time I finally did fly back and go to the doctor down in LA 3 days later, they were in shock because that's where Western medicine was a good thing, because I was finally able to see, that's when the humility really set in, is I was finally able to see the damage that I actually did to myself. Because I went to the doctor, I, did my pathetic excuse to kind of hobble my walk. It was almost like a sea walk in a way. I felt like a sea creature trying to like hobble my way around because it hurt so bad to walk and even stand. But I could do it. But anyways, I finally got to the hospital, told them what happened. They did the imaging, and then I didn't explain this part, but this is the part of everything 5 years later that is etched in my memory, and I will remember the hardest, is when the ER doctor, Dr. Ostick, comes in, and he looks at me like he's looking at a ghost. He'd just done the CT imaging, but he's looking at me like he's looking at a ghost or just some random weirdo in the room. And he comes up and he has this little tool, and he taps my feet, and he goes, "You can feel this." And I go, "Yep." And he taps a little higher and a little higher. "You can feel this." "Yep, yep." He's like, "Okay, let me see you walk again." So then I get up, do my pathetic excuse for a walk, and then he goes, "Okay, I need you to come with me. You need to see this." And so I follow him over to the nurse's station area. There's the computer up on the screen, and then he shows me. He's like, "Here's what your normal vertebrae looks like, solid little cube. Here's another normal vertebrae. Here's your L1." And it was a vertebrae that was, I had a 50% compression fracture, so like at the top half of it was totally blown out, and a big chunk of it was sitting in my spinal column. He's like, "And here's the chunk of it in your spinal column with all of your nerves." He's like, "I don't know how you can feel your feet right now. I don't know how you're walking right now. I sure as hell don't know how you were able to climb yourself out of the pool that you jumped into, but somehow you did." He's like, "If you had been airlifted out, gone immediately to the hospital for these imaging, all this imaging, like you probably would have been rushed into the fusion surgery to, have to fuse your spine together with metal brackets and stuff like that." He's like, "But because you made it these 3 days, you've done all that you've done in these 3 days, I honestly don't know if I want you to go to surgery." And that's when we did the, should we brace it? Should we go to surgery? Like all that different stuff. He actually sent the imaging off to 2 of his colleagues. One said for sure brace it, one said for sure surgery, based on, what had happened the last 3 days also. So he left it up to me. And the video that I made when I was I had my emotional breakdown, I think it was the second video in this entire series, that was the night I decided I wanted to try the brace and not the surgery, because I was doing so much better healing outside of the hospital when I wasn't on any drugs that were clouding my mind in any ways. Like when I was able to have that willpower and that control myself as much as possible over the pain, I was doing so much better, and I wasn't getting woken up all the time so people could check my vitals, and I wasn't in this ridiculously uncomfortable hospital bed, because it was honestly more comfortable for me to want to lay on the floor than in that bed. And it was just, I was like, and if I opt for surgery, I'm gonna have more days on end of this, and I can't handle this. Like I was wanting to escape after one night in the hospital. It was so uncomfortable. So that's when I was like, no, let's try the brace, see what we can do. I will be a gold star patient, do whatever I need to do to get better. And I did. And again, fast forward 5 years later, here I am. And I think the biggest lesson out there through this whole thing, and now that I've told you like some more of the origin story of this video and this series and my experience, is the fact that like human willpower is insanely incredible. Like your body's natural ability to heal, its natural programmed resilience is great. Giving it extra physical tools is great. But it's just like, think of the placebo effect. Like almost nothing is as powerful as your own mental and, for some people, spiritual will to live, will to succeed past the adversity and the statistics that Western medicine might give you based on your condition, and what they're convincing you you're possible of based on, again, you relative to a bunch of statistics of people that are kind of like you. But no, like you can do so much more than that. And again, this is, disclaimer, I am not a doctor. You got to do what is right for your mind, your body, your soul, your programming that you've made for yourself. But just know, if you are capable of it, like there's so much that's possible. Willpower, resilience, you got this. I mean, and if you question, this is only one story, one anecdote of it. If you question it, go watch the show called I Survived. I remember watching episodes of I Survived where people, like real life normal human beings, manage to survive situations and come through situations pretty well that would have killed the vast majority of people out there. Like horrific, some of them sound like Final Destination kind of stuff, but some people out there managed to survive and talk about it on a TV show. And that alone is like one of the best examples of what the human willpower can do, what your mental, spiritual, physical willpower can accomplish if it needs to. So again, 5 years later, no re-injuries. So thankful. Hope that if you are going through anything gnarly enough to be watching a video series called Spinal Crack, that you're doing the best you can with the tools you have to get better. Like every single day, I was my own physical therapist in a way. Like every single day I would wake up and do as many normal tasks, like stuff you normally take for granted. That's where the humility came in. Like, oh shit, sorry. I remember trying to wash my hair, and I had decently long hair. You probably saw in the videos, like decently long hair. I remember washing my hair, and it was so painful just to have hair on my head to wash because of the weight of my hair, and wanting to shave my head because I was so frustrated, let alone trying to get a towel up there when I was drying it. Like that alone was painful. So I would wake up every single day and I would push myself to the limits of normal everyday tasks while listening to my body when my body would say, hey, I think we've had enough today. Like, and then I would rest and I would give it the tools it needed to heal and rest and regenerate, recuperate. And then I would wake up the next morning and I would start it all over again. And every single day, like I said, by the 6-month point, I was doing yoga again, gently. By the 1-year point, I was playing soccer again. 5 years later, I'm here talking to you, being like, it's all good. So, yeah, you can do this. Believe in yourself. Listen to your body along the way and listen to the professionals that, and even if it is Western medicine, listen to the professionals that resonate best with your healing path. And with that, I love you. Good luck. And yeah, I don't think I'll have to do another video again because this is it. Bye.